In the quiet dark between stars where light took years to find its way, a small ship drifted alone. It was old, scarred, and barely holding together. Its hull was patched with metal from a dozen different worlds, and its engines hummed with a tired, uneven rhythm. Inside, a young woman sat in the pilot's seat, her eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. Her name was Lily. She was human, the last one anyone knew about. Earth had been gone for a long time, not vanished but broken. Crushed under the boots of the Kavor, a race of armored conquerors who believed peace could only come through total control. They swept through the galaxy like a storm, burning rebellious worlds, silencing voices, and rewriting history in their own cold image. To them, Earth had been just another planet full of noise, chaos, and weakness. They bombed its cities, poisoned its oceans, and left its surface to rot. Then they moved on, certain nothing could survive. But Lily had. She was only 8 when the Kavor came. She remembered the sky turning red, the ground shaking like it was screaming, and the sound of her mother's voice cutting off in the middle of a lullaby. She hid in the ruins of a subway tunnel beneath Chicago, curled up next to her brother's cold hand until she couldn't feel her own fingers anymore. He didn't wake up. She did. For years she lived in the bones of the old world. She ate canned food found in collapsed stores, drank rainwater filtered through torn cloth, and learned to move without making a sound. She watched Kavor patrols from broken windows, studied how they spoke, how they moved, how they thought. They never came back to check. Why would they? Humans were extinct, or so they said. But Lily whispered to herself every night, Earth exists. She kept a small notebook made from scavenged paper. In it she wrote names: Boston, Houston, Portland, Miami. She drew maps from memory. She wrote down songs she half remembered, stories her grandmother used to tell, the taste of strawberries in summer. She refused to let it all disappear. When she was 16, she found something that changed everything. Deep in the Nevada desert, half buried in sand and ash, lay a Kavor scout ship. It had crashed during the final sweep of Earth, its pilot dead inside, its systems flickering like a dying heartbeat. Most would have stayed away. Kavor tech was known to burn out alien minds on contact. Their ship spoke in thoughts, not words, and human brains weren't built for it. But Lily wasn't most people. She climbed inside, her hands shaking, her ribs still bruised from a fall 2 days before. She pressed her palm to the neural interface, a smooth black plate on the ship's console. Pain shot through her skull like lightning. She screamed but didn't pull away. Images flooded her mind. Stars folding, weapons charging, languages twisting into meaning. She saw the Kavor homeworld, a fortress of black stone orbiting a dying sun. She saw fleets moving like schools of silver fish through the void. And then silence. The ship accepted her. Over the next year, Lily learned to fly it. She repaired what she could with scrap and stubbornness. She taught herself navigation by watching the stars and listening to old military radio ghosts. She practiced speaking Kavor, shaping the harsh clicks and growls with her human tongue until it sounded almost right. She didn't do it for revenge. Not exactly. She did it because someone had to remember. Someone had to say, "We were here." And if no one else would, then she would. One night, while scanning deep space frequencies, she picked up a signal. It wasn't a distress call or a broadcast. It was a schedule. The Kavor were gathering at the Galactic Core for the Grand Assembly of Final Order. Their high mentor, Zorath the Unbroken, would stand before every surviving species in the galaxy and declare the end of resistance. The universe would be declared clean. No more wars. No more choices. Just silence, perfect and absolute. Lily knew what that meant. It meant Earth would be erased from every record, every memory. It would be as if humans had never existed. She set a course for the core. The journey took months. She slept in shifts, ate nutrient paste, and talked to the ship like it was a friend. She named it Willow, after a tree she once saw growing through cracked concrete in Detroit. It felt right, something fragile that refused to die. When she arrived, the sight stole her breath. The assembly chamber floated in the hollow heart of a dead star, held in place by gravity anchors older than most civilizations. Around it, thousands of warships hung in perfect formation. Kavor dreadnoughts, Vrelian carriers, Zenthari cruisers, all silent, all obedient. Species from 1,000 worlds stood in neat rows inside the chamber, collars around their necks, eyes downcast. They had been conquered, tamed, or bought. None dared speak. At the center stood Zorath. He was taller than any human, his body encased in black armor that seemed to drink the light. His face was hidden behind a smooth mask, but his voice, deep, calm, final, filled the chamber without effort. "Only we remain dangerous," he said, and his words were translated into every language present. "All others have learned. Chaos is a disease. We are the cure. The age of will is over. Obedience is peace." The crowd bowed. Lily watched from the shadow of a derelict freighter, her fingers tight on the controls. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. She knew she couldn't win a fight. Her ship was a speck against their armada. But maybe she didn't need to win. Maybe she just needed to be heard. She opened a channel. "Earth exists," she said. Her voice was quiet, human, unamplified. But the Kavor comms picked it up and broadcast it across the chamber. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a murmur rose. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Zorath turned slowly. "A ghost," he said, his tone amused. "A memory that forgot to fade." "Not a ghost," Lily replied. A promise. She didn't fire weapons. Instead, she activated her ship's main transmitter and sent out everything she had saved. Music, Beethoven, Aretha Franklin, Bob Dylan. News clips of people helping strangers during disasters. Recordings of children laughing in playgrounds. A video of a wedding in a small town in Kansas. A scientist explaining the beauty of a snowflake. A grandmother teaching her granddaughter how to bake bread. It poured into the chamber like sunlight through a cracked door. Aliens who had forgotten joy felt something stir in their chests. A Vrelian woman touched her collar and remembered singing to her child before the Kavor took them. A Xanthari engineer recalled building toys for his nephew. Not weapons. For the first time in decades, they remembered what it meant to choose. Alarms blared. Zorath roared orders. Weapons locked onto Lily's ship. But she was ready. Weeks ago, she had rerouted the ship's core to create a short-range EM pulse. It wouldn't destroy anything, but it would blind sensors and fry control links for a few critical seconds. She triggered it, light flickered, systems died. In the sudden chaos, Lily launched a drop pod toward the chamber. She crashed through the outer hull, rolled across the floor and came up running. Her railgun, a weapon cobbled together from a mining laser and a car battery, was slung over her shoulder. She moved fast, using the confusion, ducking behind pillars and fallen banners. Zorath saw her. He drew his plasma blade, a weapon that could cut through steel like paper. "You are brave," he said, stepping forward. "But bravery is just another form of foolishness." "Maybe," Lily said, breathing hard. "But it's ours." They circled each other. The chamber was vast, lit by cold blue lights. Around them, aliens watched in stunned silence. No one moved to help Zorath. No one moved to stop Lily. They were waiting to see what happened next. Zorath struck first. His blade hissed through the air. Lily dodged, but the heat seared her arm. She gritted her teeth and fired her railgun. The shot hit his chest plate and sparked, but didn't pierce. Kavor armor was too strong. "You cannot win," he said. "I don't have to," she said. She remembered the ruins of Chicago, the smell of rain on hot concrete, her brother's hand growing cold. All the things the Kavor thought were weakness, but they weren't. They were reasons to keep going. She feigned exhaustion, stumbling back. Zorath lunged, confident, sure of his victory. At the last second, Lily dropped low and fired not at him, but at the floor beneath his feet. The railgun round shattered the energy conduit running through the platform. Sparks flew. Zorath's armor flickered. In that moment, Lily saw it. The weak point. A joint in his neck armor where the plates overlapped. She had seen it in old schematics back when she studied Kavor tech in the Nevada wreck. She charged. Zorath swung his blade, but she was inside his reach now. She drove a piece of broken console sharp heavy into the joint. Black blood sprayed. Zorath gasped, a sound no one had ever heard from him before. He fell to one knee. "How?" he whispered. "Because we care," Lily said, pulling the shard free. "And caring makes us dangerous." The chamber was silent. Then from the crowd, a Vrelian snapped his collar off. Another followed. Then a dozen more. The sound of breaking metal filled the air like music. Zorath looked up at Lily, his mask cracked. "You think this changes anything?" "I don't think," she said. "I know, she didn't kill him. She left him there, broken but alive. Let him see what came next." Aliens gathered around her not as slaves, but as people. They asked her name. She told them. They asked where she was from. She said, "Earth." And for the first time in a century, someone said, "Tell us about it." So she did. She spoke of cities that reached for the sky, of oceans that stretched forever, of nights filled with fireflies and stars. She spoke of mistakes and forgiveness, of art and science, of love tea. Months passed since the Grand Assembly shattered. The galaxy once held in the iron grip of the Kavor, now breathed with a new kind of uncertainty. Old empires trembled, slave worlds rose up, trade routes shifted, and at the center of it all was a single human woman named Lily, drifting alone in her patched-up ship, Willow. She had not stayed to lead. She had not taken a throne or claimed a title. When the newly freed Alliance, the Free Chorus, asked her to speak for them, she shook her head. "I'm not a leader," she said. "I'm a reminder." And with that, she turned her ship toward the one place no one believed still mattered. Earth. The journey home was long and quiet. Space felt different now, not empty, but full of whispers. Other ships hailed her as she passed. Some sent messages of thanks. Others asked for stories. She answered a few, but mostly she flew in silence, watching the stars blur into streaks of light. When Sol System finally appeared on her screen, her hands trembled. She had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that it was real, fear crept in. What if nothing was left? What if the planet was truly dead? As Willow dropped out of warp near Mars, sensors painted a picture she barely recognized. Earth's atmosphere was thin but stable. Oceans were dark but not poisoned. Green patches, real, living green, spread across what used to be deserts and cities. Nature had begun to heal. She entered orbit slowly, heart pounding. Below her the continents were scarred, yes, but alive. Forests grew through the skeletons of skyscrapers. Rivers cut new paths through cracked highways. And in the center of what used to be New York, something caught her eye, a single tree, small but strong, its leaves catching the sunlight. She hadn't expected that. Lily guided Willow down to a flat stretch of land near the ruins of Central Park. The landing struts groaned as they touched Earth for the first time in over a century. She sat in the cockpit for a long time, just breathing. The air smelled different, cleaner, wilder, full of rain and soil and something green. She stepped out. Her boots sank slightly into soft earth. Birds, real birds, called from the trees. A deer watched her from a distance, unafraid. She walked through the ruins, past rusted cars and broken signs, her fingers brushing moss-covered stone. She found the steps of the public library, half buried but still standing. She smiled. Earth existed. But she was not alone. As she wandered toward the Hudson River, she saw smoke rising in the distance. Not the black smoke of war, but the thin gray curl of a campfire. Her hand went to her sidearm, but she forced herself to relax. She followed the smoke. In a clearing surrounded by wildflowers stood a small settlement, wooden huts, solar panels made from scavenged glass, clothes drying on lines. Children ran between the buildings, laughing. Adults worked in gardens or repaired tools. They looked up as she approached. For a moment, no one moved. Then a woman stepped forward. She was older, her hair streaked with gray, her face lined with years of sun and worry. She wore a coat made from old military fabric, but her eyes were sharp and kind. "You're human," the woman said, voice rough but steady. "So are you," Lily replied. The woman smiled. "We thought we were the last, hiding in the mountains after the fire stopped. We came back 10 years ago. Found the land. Healing." Lily's throat tightened. "How many of you?" "About 200 scattered. Some in Colorado, some in Alaska, a few in Europe. We trade, share news. We keep quiet, just in case. Just in case the Kuvor came back," the woman nodded. "Or someone worse." They walked together through the settlement. Lily met others, men, women, children, all bearing the quiet strength of survivors. They showed her their crops, their water filters, their school carved into the side of an old bank vault. They taught their children history, not just the war, but what came before. Music, math, kindness. That night they shared a meal of roasted rabbit, wild greens, and bread made from ground acorns. Lily told them about the assembly, about Zorath, about the Free Chorus. They listened in silence, eyes wide. "You did that?" a boy asked. "No older than 10. "No," Lily said. "We all did. I just reminded them we were still here." The next morning, Lily helped plant a new garden. As she dug her hands into the soil, she felt something she hadn't in years, peace. But it didn't last. On the third day, Willow's sensors beeped. A ship was approaching. Not Kavor, not human. It was small, sleek, bearing the markings of the Relian people. One of the first to break free at the assembly. A shuttle landed at the edge of the settlement. Out stepped a Vrelian envoy, tall and slender with silver eyes and skin like polished stone. His name was Kale, Lily of Earth, he said, bowing slightly. The free chorus sends word. She stood, wiping dirt from her hands. What is it Zorath lives? But he is not alone. A faction of Kavor loyalists has gathered in the Outer Rim. They call themselves the Pure Hand. They say the assembly was a betrayal. They plan to strike back, not just at us, but at every world that dared to rise. Lily's blood ran cold. How soon? Weeks. Maybe less. They have weapons we've never seen. Ships built in secret. They believe if they burn enough worlds, the rest will kneel again. The settlement fell silent. Lily looked at the children playing near the river, at the old woman mending a net, at the green shoots pushing through cracked pavement. This fragile new life, could it survive another war? Why tell me, she asked Kyle. I'm just one person. Because you are the symbol, he said gently. When you said Earth exists, you gave us courage. Now they need to hear it again. She didn't answer right away. That night she climbed to the top of a broken skyscraper and watched the stars. She thought of her brother, of her mother's lullaby, of the tree growing in New York. The next morning she made her choice. She would not fight alone. She called a meeting, not just with her people, but with every survivor group she could reach. Using Willow's comms, she sent out a signal on old emergency frequencies. This is Lily. If you're out there, come home. One by one, they answered. A group from the Rocky Mountains arrived in armored trucks. Fisherfolk from the Pacific coast sailed in on solar-powered boats. A scientist from the ruins of NASA brought working drones and maps of old defense bunkers. Even a former Kavor translator, a human who had been taken as a child and escaped, joined them. Offering knowledge of enemy tactics together, they planned. They knew they couldn't match the Pure Hand in firepower, but they had something better, Earth itself. They used the ruins as cover, turned old subway tunnels into supply lines and rigged solar storms to blind enemy sensors. Lily taught them how to move like shadows, how to strike fast and vanish. Kyle and other Free Chorus allies sent what help they could, scanners, medical kits, even a few fighters. But the real defense would be human. When the Pure Hand came, they expected ruins and silence. Instead, they found resistance. Their first ship entered orbit, scanning for life signs. It found none. Lily had taught everyone to mask their heat to stay underground. The Kavor sent drop pods. As soon as they landed, hidden traps triggered. Old missile silos reprogrammed with scavenged tech fired not warheads but nets and EMP bursts. Kavor soldiers stumbled out, disoriented, only to be met with arrows, slingshots, and homemade explosives. It wasn't a fair fight, but it was smart. Lily led a team to the main Kavor command pod. She moved through the ruins like a ghost. Her railgun silent, her steps sure. Inside the pod she found their leader, a younger Kavor named Vorik, zealous and cruel. You think hiding in dirt makes you strong? He snarled. No, Lily said. I think loving something enough to protect it makes you strong. They fought in the heart of the ruined Capitol building. Vorik was fast, fueled by rage, but Lily knew every crack in the floor, every broken beam overhead. She lured him into a chamber filled with old gas lines. One shot from her railgun, and the room exploded in fire. Vorik didn't survive. With their leader gone, the Pure Hand faltered. Their ships, confused by the guerrilla tactics and constant sabotage, began to retreat. The Free Chorus fleet arrived just in time to cut off their escape. The battle was over in hours. Afterward, Lily stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. Smoke rose from a few fires, but people were already rebuilding. Children helped carry water. Elders tended the wounded. The earth, scarred but unbroken, held them all. Kale approached. You saved us again. No, she said. We saved each other. In the weeks that followed, Earth became more than a memory. It became a beacon. Ships from across the galaxy came, not to conquer, but to learn. They saw how humans lived with the land, not against it. How they remembered the past without being chained to it. Lily still flew Willow, but now she carried seeds, books, and messages of peace. She visited other worlds, shared Earth stories, and listened to theirs. And every year, on the day the Kavor first came, she returned to New York. She watered the tree. She sat beneath its branches and whispered the names of the lost. Because Earth existed, and as long as one person remembered, it always would. Years flowed like rivers after the battle with the Pure Hand. Earth was no longer a secret. It was a symbol. Ships from 100 worlds now visited its orbit, not with weapons but with open hands. They came to trade, to learn, to listen. The ruins of human cities became classrooms. Old libraries, once buried under ash, were dug out and filled with voices again. Children from Vrel, Zenthari, and even former Kavor colonies sat beside human kids, learning about poetry, soil, and stars. Lily watched it all from the edge of things. She never stood on stages or gave grand speeches. She preferred quiet corners, fixing a broken water pump, teaching a young Vrelian how to plant beans, or walking the forest paths with only the wind for company. But everyone knew her. They called her the Root, not because she led, but because everything new seemed to grow from the ground she stood on. Still, peace was fragile. One evening, as Lily sat by a campfire near the Hudson, Cale arrived again. His silver eyes were tired. He carried a data crystal in his hand. "They found something," he said without greeting. Lily held out her palm. He placed the crystal in it. Deep in the void, beyond the shattered rim, our scouts picked up a signal. Not a distress call. Not a broadcast, a pulse, repeating every 7 hours. Same pattern. Same tone. She plugged it into a small reader. The sound that came out was soft, almost musical. But underneath it ran a current of something else. Order. Control. Familiarity. "Kavor," she whispered. "Not just any Kavor," Kyle said. "This signal matches old command codes from before the assembly, from the inner sanctum." Lily's blood ran cold. The inner sanctum was a myth, a hidden fleet, a last reserve of the old empire said to sleep in the dark between galaxies. If it was real. "They're waking up," she said. Cale nodded. "And they know Earth lives." The Free Chorus Council met in orbit, aboard a rebuilt station once used for space junk collection. Now it was called the Hearth. Representatives from 30 species gathered in a wide chamber lined with growing vines and soft light. Lily stood at the back, arms crossed, listening. Most wanted to prepare for war, build more ships, fortify worlds. But Lily shook her head. "They expect that," she said, stepping forward. "They expect us to gather weapons and wait. But that's how they beat us before, by making us fight their way." "What do you suggest?" asked a Zenthari elder, her voice like rustling leaves. "We go to them," Lily said. "Not with armies, with truth." Silence filled the room. "You want to walk into the lion's den?" Cale asked. "Not walk," she said. "Fly, but not to fight. To show them what they lost." She explained her plan. The inner sanctum wasn't just a military force. It was the heart of Kavor belief. Their leaders were not warriors, but philosophers who saw chaos as the enemy of all life. They had approved the purges not out of hate, but out of fear. If they could see that order and freedom could coexist, maybe they could be reached. It was a risk, a huge one. But Lily had spent her life betting on hope. A week later, she left Earth again. This time, Willow carried no weapons, only recordings of children playing in rain, of farmers singing while they worked, of elders telling stories under starlight. She also carried a single seed from the tree in New York. Her journey took her past dead stars and silent nebulae, into a region of space so empty, even comms faded. There, hidden behind a veil of gravitational distortion, floated the inner sanctum. It was not a fleet. It was a city. A massive ring of black stone spinning slowly around a cold dwarf star. Towers rose like spines. Bridges of light connected its sections. No weapons were visible. No patrols. Just stillness. Lily sent a message. "I come not as a soldier, but as a witness." For hours, nothing. Then, a single docking bay opened. She landed Willow alone. No guards met her. No threats. Just a long corridor lit by soft blue light. At the end stood an old Kavor. His armor was plain, unmarked. His mask was gone, revealing a face lined with age, his eyes deep and weary. "You are the human," he said. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "My name is Lily," she said. "I am Torvak, last keeper of the sanctum." He led her through halls lined with archives, crystals holding the memories of 1,000 worlds, not as conquests, but as studies. "We did not destroy for joy," he said. "We believed we were saving the universe from itself. Too much noise. Too much pain. We thought silence was mercy. Silence is death," Lily said. "Life is messy. It argues, it cries, it sings off-key. But that's what makes it real." Torvak stopped before a great chamber. Inside, hundreds of Kivor sat in meditation. They were not soldiers. They were thinkers, teachers, historians. "Show us," Torvak said. So Lily did. She played the recordings. She showed them Earth, not as it was during war, but as it was now. Humans planting gardens beside aliens. Children teaching each other languages. A Vrelian woman braiding flowers into a human girl's hair. A Kivor child, born free, laughing as he chased a dog through a field. One by one, the Kivor in the chamber opened their eyes. A young female Kivor stood. "Is this possible?" "It's happening," Lily said. Torvak walked to a console and entered a command. The great ring shuddered. Deep within its core, systems powered down. Weapon locks disengaged. The inner sanctum, the last bastion of the old order, chose peace. "We were wrong," Torvak said simply, "and it is not too late to learn." Lily stayed for weeks. She walked the halls, answered questions, shared meals of strange fruits and quiet conversation. She planted the seed from Earth in a small garden inside the ring. The Kivor tended it carefully. When she left, Torvak gave her a gift, a data core containing all the knowledge the sanctum had gathered, not as weapons, but as wisdom. "Share it," he said. "Let it grow." Back on Earth, she did. Schools opened across the galaxy, teaching not just science or war, but empathy. The free chorus became the shared chorus. Old enemies worked side by side, and Lily? She kept flying, but time moves for everyone. One spring, as she helped rebuild a school in what used to be Seattle, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. She sat down, breathing hard. A young doctor, a human raised on Mars, checked her. "Your heart," she said gently. "It's worn out." "Too many years in hard places," Lily smiled. "It served me well." She didn't fight it. She went home, to the settlement near New York, to the tree that now stood tall, its branches wide and strong. She sat beneath it every day, watching the sky. People came to see her, not as a hero, but as a friend. They brought her food, stories, songs. Children drew pictures for her. Aliens she had never met knelt beside her and thanked her in their own tongues. One evening, as the sun set in streaks of orange and purple, Kale sat with her. "What will happen when you're gone?" he asked. "The same thing that happened when my mother was gone," she said. "Someone will remember, and they'll keep going." She closed her eyes. The wind moved through the leaves above her. It sounded like laughter, like home. Lily died quietly, with her hand in the soil and her face turned to the stars. They buried her beneath the tree. No stone, no monument. Just a ring of wildflowers and a single plaque that read, "She said Earth exists." Years turned into decades. The tree grew taller. Its seeds were carried to other worlds. Schools taught her story not as myth but as lesson. And whenever the galaxy faced fear or doubt, someone would say those words, "Earth exists." And in that moment, hope returned. Ships still visit Earth. Not for war, not for glory, but to walk among the green, to touch the bark of the great tree and to remember that even the smallest voice can change the universe. Because Lily proved it. And Earth thrives. Decades after Lily's passing, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Peace was no longer a fragile idea. It was a practice taught in schools, woven into laws, lived in daily choices. The shared chorus grew not by force but by invitation. Every world that joined added its own song to the whole, and at the heart of it all stood Earth, not as a capital, not as a ruler, but as a quiet reminder that even the broken can heal. The great tree in New York, now called Lily's Oak, stood over 100 feet tall. Its branches stretched wide, casting shade over a thriving village built among the ruins. Descendants of the first survivors lived there, along with visitors from across the stars. Some came to study, some came to grieve, others simply came to sit and breathe. One spring morning, a young girl named Maya climbed the lowest branch of the tree. She was 10 years old, with dark curls and eyes full of questions. Her mother was human, her father a Vrelian diplomat. She spoke 3 languages and could name every bird in the forest. "Why do they call it Lily's Oak?" she asked her grandmother, who sat below weaving baskets from river reeds. "Because a woman named Lily planted it," the old woman said, her voice soft with memory. "She came back when everyone thought Earth was dead. She said, 'Earth exists.' And because she said it, others believed." Maya frowned. "But how did one person change everything?" Her grandmother smiled. "She didn't. She reminded everyone that they already had the power. She just lit the match. That afternoon, Maya wandered into the old archive, a building once part of a museum, now filled with books, recordings, and artifacts from before the fall. She found a dusty console still powered by solar cells. On it was a label, Lily's Final Log. Curious, she pressed play. A woman's face appeared, tired, kind, with eyes that held both sorrow and strength. It was Lily, younger than in the statues, speaking not to the galaxy but to whoever might find this one day. "If you're watching this," Lily said, "then we made it. Earth is alive, and so are you. Don't wait for a hero. Be the voice that says this matters. Be the hand that helps. Be the one who remembers names, songs, and kindness. That's how we win. Not with fire, but with care." The recording ended. Maya sat still for a long time. Then she ran home. That night, she told her parents she wanted to become a memory keeper, one of the few who traveled the galaxy collecting stories from old worlds, especially those forgotten or nearly lost. Her father nodded. Her mother kissed her forehead. Lily would be proud, her mother said. Years passed. Maya trained hard. She learned to fly small scouts, to speak with elders, to listen more than she spoke. At 18, she took her first solo mission, to the Outer Rim, where a dying world called Kesar still held a few hundred souls. Their oceans were gone, their sky red with dust, but they sang every night. Maya recorded their songs. She helped them send seeds to Earth, and before she left, their oldest elder gave her a small stone carved with a spiral. "For the tree," the elder said. Maya carried it home. When she placed it at the base of Lily's oak, something strange happened. The next morning, a new sapling sprouted beside the great tree, its leaves shimmering faintly silver like starlight. Scientists came. Botanists, xenobiologists, even old Kavor scholars. None could explain it. The sapling grew fast, strong, and unlike any plant known. It seemed to hum softly in the wind, as if singing back to the stars. People began to say the tree was listening. Not long after, reports came from distant systems. On Vrel, a child drew a picture of Lily's oak, though she had never seen it. On a mining colony near Zenthar, workers found a cave wall covered in ancient human symbols drawn by someone who shouldn't have known them. On a dead moon, a probe picked up a whisper in English. Earth exists. Some called it coincidence. Others called it memory echoing through time. But Maya knew better. She began to notice patterns. Whenever fear rose, when a world faced drought, war, or despair, something small would happen. A lost signal would guide a rescue ship. A forgotten seed would sprout in barren soil. A song would surface in a dream, leading someone to help. It was as if Lily's promise had taken root in the universe itself. One evening, Maya stood beneath the twin trees, Lily's oak and the silver sapling, and opened a channel to the shared chorus council. "We've been thinking of peace as something we build," she said. "But maybe it's something we awaken. Maybe Lily didn't just save us. Maybe she planted a seed in time itself." The council listened, and for the first time, they voted not on laws or fleets, but on a new mission, the Garden Project. Ships would carry not weapons, but stories, seeds, and songs. They would visit every world, not to govern, but to connect, to remind each other that no one is alone, that every voice matters. Maya led the first fleet. Her ship, named Willow's Echo, left orbit with a cargo hold full of Earth soil, Lily's recordings, and cuttings from the silver sapling. Her crew was made of humans, Vrelians, Zenthari, and even a young Kavor who had grown up reading Lily's words. Their first stop was a world called Ilaris, once proud, now silent after a civil war. Cities lay in ruins, survivors hid in caves. Hope was thin. Maya didn't land with speeches. She walked into the nearest village carrying a small pot with a silver sapling cutting. She planted it in the center of the town square. Then she sat and played Lily's Final Log. People came slowly, first children, then parents, then elders with tears in their eyes. That night they sang together. By the time Maya left, the village had begun to rebuild. Not walls, but gardens. Not weapons, but schools. The pattern repeated. On dry worlds, the silver saplings pulled moisture from the air. On cold worlds, their roots warmed the soil. On broken worlds, their presence seemed to soften grief. No one understood how, but everyone felt it. Back on Earth, the original silver sapling grew into a second great tree. Its bark glowed faintly at night. Birds nested in its branches that had never been seen before. Creatures of light and sound said to carry dreams between stars. Scientists gave up trying to explain it. Poets wrote about it. Children played beneath it, making up stories of Lily watching over them from somewhere beyond the sky. One day Maya returned home older, her hair streaked with gray, her steps slower, but her eyes still bright. She brought with her cuttings from 100 worlds, flowers that bloomed in zero gravity, vines that sang in the wind, moss that healed wounds. She planted them all around the twin trees, and that night, for the first time, the two trees bloomed together. Lily's oak bore white flowers shaped like stars. The silver tree bore blue blossoms that chimed like glass in the breeze. Their scents mixed into something new, sweet, strong, and full of promise. People gathered from across the galaxy, not for a ceremony, but for a moment of quiet awe. Maya stood at the front holding the hand of her granddaughter, a little girl named Lily. "Do you feel it?" Maya whispered. The child nodded. "It's like the whole universe is breathing." And in that breath everyone remembered. They remembered the ruins, the silence, the fear, and then a single voice saying, "Earth exists." That voice had grown into a chorus. And the chorus had become a garden. Now, centuries after the fall, Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a heartbeat, steady, alive, shared. Ships still come. Not to conquer, not to take, but to remember, to learn, and to add their own seeds to the soil. And high above, in the quiet dark between stars, if you listen closely, you can hear it, the soft rustle of leaves, the chime of silver blossoms, and the echo of a promise that never faded. Earth exists, and so does hope. Centuries had passed since Lily first whispered those words, "Earth exists," into the silence of a broken galaxy. Now her voice lived not just in memory, but in the very rhythm of life across 1,000 worlds. The twin trees in New York, Lily's oak and the silver echo, stood taller than skyscrapers, their roots deep in the bones of the old world, their branches cradling nests of starlight birds and vines that hummed with forgotten songs. Earth was no longer alone. It was a crossroads, a sanctuary, a classroom without walls. Every year, during the bloom season, when the white and blue flowers opened together, beings from every corner of the shared chorus came to walk beneath the trees, to plant a seed, or simply to sit and remember what it meant to be small and brave and kind. Among them was a young human named Nora. She was 16, restless and full of questions no one seemed able to answer. She had grown up in the sky village built into the upper branches of Lily's oak, a place of rope bridges, solar lanterns, and libraries grown from living wood. She knew Lily's story by heart. She had recited it in school, acted it out in plays, even traced the words "Earth exists" into the bark of her own windowsill sapling. But something nagged at her. "Everyone talks about Lily like she finished the work," she told her mentor, an old Zenthari botanist named Alira. "But what if the work isn't done? What if there are still voices no one hears?" Alira looked at her over a cup of mint tea. "Then you listen harder." That night, Nora climbed to the highest platform of the sky village. Above her, the stars were sharp and clear. Below, the twin trees glowed softly, their light pulsing like a slow heartbeat. She opened an old archive console, one that still ran on Lily's original code, and searched for signals from the deep void, beyond the known chorus. Most were quiet, static, ghosts. But one flickered. It wasn't a language. Not exactly. It was a pattern, repeating every 9 hours, faint, buried under cosmic noise. It matched no known species. Not Kavor, not Vrel, not even the ancient ruins of the pre-fall era. Nora recorded it, played it back, listened until her ears ached. There was sorrow in it, and loneliness. She took it to the Council of Keepers, elders who guarded Earth's legacy. They listened, then shook their heads. "It's likely a natural echo," said one. "A pulsar, maybe, or a glitch," said another. But Nora didn't believe them. She remembered Lily's final log. "Be the one who remembers names, songs, and kindness." What if this signal was a name no one had spoken in a long time? She asked for a ship, not a warship, not even a scout. Just a small vessel built for listening, not fighting. They gave her one, Whisper, a ship made from reclaimed hulls and powered by solar sails. Its only weapon was a wide-band receiver and a garden pod full of seeds from the twin trees. Her parents worried. Her friends begged her to stay, but Nora knew she had to go. "I'm not looking for a fight," she told them. "I'm looking for a friend." She launched at dawn, the twin trees glowing behind her like twin suns. The journey took months. She followed the signal deeper into the uncharted rim, past dead stars and silent nebulae, into a region so empty, even time seemed to slow. There, floating in the dark, she found it. A world, not dead, not alive, in between. Its surface was covered in smooth black stone, seamless, featureless. No cities, no ruins, no signs of life. But the signal came from its core. Nora landed Whisper on a flat plain. The air was thin but breathable. The ground was warm, as if the planet itself was sleeping. She stepped out, carrying a small speaker and a cutting from the silver echo tree. "Hello," she said, her voice small against the vast silence. Nothing answered. She played the signal back through the speaker. The moment the sound touched the air, the ground beneath her feet trembled. Slowly, silently, a circle of stone sank into the earth. A doorway opened. Nora took a breath and walked in. Inside, the walls pulsed with soft light. The air smelled like rain and old paper. She followed a winding path downward, deeper and deeper, until she reached a great chamber. In the center floated a sphere of liquid light. As she approached, images formed in the light. Faces, worlds, languages all swirling together. Then a voice spoke, not in words, but in feeling. "We were first." Nora understood. This was not a species. It was a memory. The last echo of the galaxy's original builders. Being so ancient, they had shaped stars before life learned to walk. They had watched civilizations rise and fall, war and peace, silence and song. But in the end, they chose to sleep, to preserve themselves in case the universe forgot how to begin again. And it had. Until Lily. The sphere showed her visions. Lily standing before Zorath, the first bloom of the twin trees. Maya planting the silver sapling on Ilaris, children laughing in the sky village. The ancient ones had been listening all along. "You remembered," the voice said. "So we wake." The ground shook again, not in anger but in joy. From cracks in the stone, green shoots emerged. Not earth plants, not alien. Something new. Flowers with petals like glass, stems that glowed with inner light. The planet was waking up. Nora planted the silver cutting in the center of the chamber. The moment its roots touched the soil, the light sphere expanded, filling the room with warmth and sound, a song older than time, now joined by the chime of the silver tree. When she returned to Whisper, the planet's surface was changing. Rivers formed. Clouds gathered. Wind moved through newborn grass. She sent a message home. "We are not alone, and we never were." Back on Earth, the council was stunned. They debated, planned, worried. But Nora didn't wait for permission. She broadcast the ancient song across the shared chorus, and something beautiful happened. On every world that heard it, dormant seeds sprouted. Seeds no one knew they had. Flowers bloomed in metal cities. Trees grew through starship decks. Children woke from dreams speaking words no one had taught them. The galaxy was remembering its roots. Nora stayed on the awakening world for a year. She learned its rhythms, its songs, its quiet ways. She named it First Breath. And when she finally returned to Earth, she brought with her a single fruit from the glass-flowered tree. She planted it between the twin trees. By morning, a third tree stood there, translucent, shimmering, its leaves shifting color with the mood of those nearby. People called it the Heartwood. Now 3 trees stood as one. Pilgrims came not just to remember the past, but to dream the future. Artists painted with light from the Heartwood's leaves. Healers used its pollen to calm troubled minds. Diplomats held talks beneath its branches, saying the tree helped them hear not just words, but truth. Nora became a bridge, not between species, but between time itself. She taught that history wasn't just what happened, but what could still grow from it. And she was right. One evening, as she sat with her younger sister beneath the Heartwood, the girl asked, "Do you think Lily knew it would turn out like this?" Nora smiled. "I think she hoped. And hope is enough." Years passed. Nora grew older, her hair silver like the echo tree's bark. She never married, never ruled, never sought fame. But her name was spoken with Lily's and Maya's in songs, in lessons, in quiet thanks. When she died, she was found sitting beneath the 3 trees, a notebook in her lap, her hand resting on a fresh sprout pushing through the soil. They buried her there with no stone, only a ring of glass flowers that never wilted. And the work continued. New voices rose. New ships launched. New seeds were carried to dark corners of the galaxy. Because the lesson had taken root. You don't need to be the strongest to matter. You just need to care enough to say you're not alone today. If you stand beneath the 3 trees during the bloom season, you can hear it. The whisper of Lily's courage. The song of Maya's journey. The silence of Nora's listening. And the ancient hum of first breath. Together, they form a single truth passed from heart to heart. World to world, Earth exists, and so does everyone else.